How many times have you walked away from a conversation feeling unheard? You were calm, you were explaining your side, and somehow they twisted your words. The next thing you know, you're apologizing for something you never said. I've seen this moment played out many times, not just in offices or arguments, but in interview rooms. For years as a federal agent, I studied the small patterns people use to steer conversations without raising their voice, without getting emotional, and without you noticing until it's too late. And here's the thing that most people never realize. These patterns, they are not random. They follow predictable steps, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to spot them early, and more importantly, how to stop them and walk away with your confidence intact. So let me start by telling you how I completely failed during one of my early interviews. The moment I started asking question, I knew it was not going to be a straightforward interview. This individual, he didn't stay quiet. He didn't ask for a lawyer. Instead, he raised his voice and he started yelling at me. You're calling me a criminal. You think I'm a horrible person, and many other things. Here's the thing. I hadn't called him anything, not once. But what he was trying to do is to make it seem like I was the one attacking him. And that's precisely the trap. If I got defensive and I said, no, I didn't call you dad, I looked like I was backpedaling. If I stay silent, I'd be agreeing. If I raise my voice, then I prove that I was attacking him. So this is what we call conversational aggression, and it's designed to do one thing, and that's to make you lose control so that they can take it. Well, the reality is that I did not follow my own advice. I simply tried to match his aggression. And that is like getting in a ring with a professional boxer. It's not gonna go well for you. Luckily for me, my partner, a more seasoned agent, was in the room, and what he did is what I'm gonna be showing you today. Because by the end of the interview, his aggression had faded, and my partner was able to get information that ultimately led to charges being filed. And it wasn't because my partner overpowered him, it's because of what he did. Let me start by telling you the science of why this works. See, when you get attacked in a conversation, there's a specific part of your brain, the amygdala, that gets triggered, and this part is responsible for the fight or flight. This is going to cause your body to flood with cortisol, which is going to make your heart rate spike. Now you're not thinking strategically anymore, you're going to be reacting emotionally, and that is exactly what they want. Because once you're emotional, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to be defending points that you don't believe in, which can cause you to say things that you might regret. In interviews and interrogations, aggressive subjects use three primary tactics to gain control, and that is the straw man strap, which is essentially an exaggeration of a point that you made, the hidden presupposition, and this is questions that assume your guilt or a specific bias, and you have the smash technique, which is essentially when you get overloaded with multiple questions or accusations at once. Does it sound familiar? That's because your co-workers, your boss, and individuals within your office are using the exact same playbook. Before we learn more about how to overcome these techniques, I'm going to show you the three elements of a control response. First, you need to recognize the trap before you fall into it, because aggressive people, they reveal their intent early through their tone and their word choice. Second, you need to slow the tempo down. You never let somebody else control the speed of the conversation. And last, you must reframe without emotion. You need to clarify what you actually said, not what they claim you said. Alright, before we talk a little bit more deeper about the technique, I want to know, what is happening in your workplace that is frustrating you? Is it a coworker who is twisting your word? Is it a boss who's asking loaded questions? Whatever your scenario is, go ahead and comment below. I'm going to be reading every single one of them, and I might make a video addressing yours. Okay, so how do you apply these techniques in your workplace? So let's start with the straw man strap. So let's say that you're in a meeting and you're suggesting a new process to improve efficiency, but your coworker, his reply is, what, you don't think that we know what we're doing? So everything that we do is wrong? Now, what you need to watch out for is phrases like, so you're saying, so you're telling me, so you're calling me, followed by an extreme version of what you said. If you recall, you simply suggested a way to improve a process, while your coworker is alluding that you said that they don't know what they're doing. That emotional language and that raised volume is designed to make you defensive. And like I said, aggressive people, they're going to reveal that intent early through their tone and word choice. Your response should be to restate your point, followed by a question specific to your idea. You can say something like, hey, the reason I'm suggesting this improvement is because it's going to save us 30 minutes of work. Do you agree with that point? What you have done is that you have forced the engagement with your actual position and not with the distorted version that they created. And by you staying calm while they're emotional, you're going to look more credible to everybody watching. So if we talk about the hidden presupposition, if you recall, this one can be sneaky because it happens all the time, and sometimes people don't catch the hidden meaning behind the question in time. So say that you walk into a weekly team meeting and you just finish a project ahead of time, and your manager is looking at you and he asks, why do you think communication has been such a problem in your section lately? Now you're confused confused. You don't even know what they're talking about, but everybody in the room is looking at you now, waiting for your answer. This is what I mean by a loaded question, right? This question is assuming that there's a communication problem in your section as of lately. Now, if you simply answer the question directly, you have just admitted there's a communication problem, that the problem is in your section, even if none of that is accurate. So with hidden presupposition or loaded questions, the goal is not to answer the question, but to challenge the premise. Can you clarify what communication issues you're referring to? Now, sit back and watch what happens, because they're gonna either have to provide a specific example, or they're gonna have to backpedal and find an alternate viewpoint. What you have just done is that you're not accepting their frame, you're making them prove their claim before you respond to it. The key here is that you have to recognize the pattern. When a question contains an unproven claim, don't answer it, expose it. Alright guys, be sure to stick around until the end. You don't want to miss out the most common mistakes that you need to avoid. Let's go ahead and dive into technique number 3, which is a smash technique. This is when you get bombarded with multiple questions at once. Let's go ahead and look at a scenario. Let's assume that you are in a project review meeting. You've been working long hours, but you have successfully completed your project, your products shipped on time, and your customers are happy. So you're thinking that nothing can go wrong, but as soon as you walk in, your manager greets you with 3 separate questions. Why didn't you finish your report on time? And why didn't you loop me in? And why do I always have to remind you? Now, your heart rate is spiking, your mind is racing, and you don't even know where to start. With the smash technique, when you get asked multiple questions, this is designed to overwhelm you, because this is going to get your cognitive capacity to be overloaded. And this is so effective because your brain is hit by multiple questions at once, and it doesn't know how to respond to them. Now, you're not longer going to be thinking strategically, you're just surviving the onslaught. And most people tend to respond in one of 3 ways. They freeze, they scramble, or they defend emotionally. All 3 responses are going to make you look bad. Instead, what you should do is that you need to take a breath. You need to slow down. Once you do that, then you can acknowledge, but don't accept their premise. For example, you can say, that's several different topics there. Let's make sure that I address each of them. This is going to show that you're taking them seriously, but more importantly, that you are taking control. Because remember, whoever controls the flow of information controls the narrative. Lastly, before you move on to the next topic, you need to ensure that they don't have any questions. For example, is there any additional questions you want to discuss? Or should we move to the stakeholder communication? You are now controlling the pace. You're controlling the sequence. You're making them work through the list with you, not fire an accusation. You have transformed a chaotic attack into an organized conversation. And here's what usually happens. Have the accusations, they evaporate. Once you slow things down, because they weren't real problems, they just simply dissipate. Plenty of times I've been in this scenario, and more often than not, the responses from the accuser are always something like, well, let's talk about this later, let's get back to the meeting. Now, the key rule here is, remember, when somebody tries to bury you under multiple accusations, slow down. Pick one, resolve it, and then move to the next. Don't let somebody else's chaos become yours. Alright, as promised, let's go ahead and talk about the most common mistakes that you need to avoid. The first one is answering a loaded question directly. Alright, let's discuss the first question, which we mentioned earlier. You don't think that we know what we're doing? Now, if you answer the question directly, you have just admitted that you're calling them incompetent. You need to always challenge the premise and then restate your point. Number 2, getting defensive. This is perhaps the most common response. What you need to know is that defensiveness signals guilt and brings attention to uncertainty. You need to stay calm, you need to clarify it, and you need to reframe. Number 3 is matching their aggression. Recall my analogy, you do not want to get in the ring with the professional boxer. The moment you raise your voice or attack back, you have lost. As an agent, in order to excel at interviews, I have to stay calmer than my subject. Staying in control is going to allow you to remain strategic and not emotional. Now let's talk about number 4, which is trying to answer everything at once. And that is precisely the trap. Remember, you need to slow down, you need to take control, and you need to address one thing at a time. Here's what most people miss about dealing with aggressive communicators. They think that the goal is to win the argument, but federal agents know that the real goal is to control the frame. When somebody tries to manipulate you, they're trying to put you on trial. They want you defending yourself, justifying your actions, and scrambling for a response. But the truth is, you do not have to accept their frame. You can pause, clarify, and reframe. You can force them to engage with reality instead of the distorted version that they have created. And when you do that consistently, something magical starts to happen. People stop trying to bully you because they realize it doesn't work. And that's not manipulation. That's reading what people are already doing and refusing to play along. If you like this video, go ahead and check out my other video about how to command presence without even saying a single word.